my mic goes back on. There we go. So first thing I'm going to show you is, do we all feel pretty comfortable with powering the device on or off with the little button in the top right corner? I want to make sure we all feel good with that before we go. And then for those of you that when you get to the point of when you want to shut a computer down, you actually won't use the power button to turn it back off. You'd think, well, wait a minute, I turned that on, I've turned it off. There is a special process to shut the computer off. And you'll notice, if I go to my trackpad here, so I have a little pointer, and first thing I'm going to show you is, I'm going to show you how to make this little pointer bigger, like especially if you're doing a presentation for someone or something like that. If you ever get to where you can't find this, all you have to do is wave your finger back and forth, and it will actually make the pointer get bigger for a second, so you can find it on the screen. But what we're going to do to enlarge this is I'm going up to the top left corner of the ribbon, or the control center, the control screen there, yep, of the Apple menu. Now, when you see the Apple menu, think back to the Windows computer, think of the Start menu that used to be down here in the bottom left corner. Our version of the Start menu is the little Apple logo. So think it's very similar to what you'll see in the Start menu. You'll notice you have About This Mac, System Preferences, which is another word. We use the word preferences for settings. So when you see preferences, think settings like in Windows on that. App Store, where you can get different programs for your computer. Recent items will show you anything recently opened on the computer. And then Force Quit is similar to like a Control-Alt-Delete or End task that you would do on a Windows computer. So same principle. If you get to where something's not acting like it should or a program gets stuck, you can go to Force Quit to stop that from happening. Now, these little symbols right here are our version of shortcut symbols that you'll do. And you'll notice if you look on your keyboard, to the left or the right of the space bar, you'll see that little kind of cloverleaf symbol. That's your symbol for the command key on that. And then you have that little kind of a dash symbol. That's your option key symbol. And then this one on the left is escape. So what we would do is we would do command, option, escape key if you were doing a keyboard command to do that. It's kind of like Control, Alt, Delete, same way. Yep. And I'm just going to show you real quick what happens when I do that. Command, option, escape key. And I get the little end task option where I can basically say quit that program if it's not functioning like it should. And you might say, well, wait a minute, what if my keyboard or my mouse is not working? Doing that key command, I can still use my arrow keys to move up to the thing I want to quit, and then use my return key if it's highlighted in blue to actually execute that or get it to quit the program. So that's a nice thing to know if you're ever working on something and that program you're in gets stuck. You don't necessarily have to quit the whole system. You could just do a Control Option Escape, or sorry, Command Option Escape, and then that will allow you to quit out the program without shutting the whole computer down and then maybe potentially losing other work you might have or something like that. So I always say the first thing I try to see if I can quit the program itself. If that doesn't work, then I try the Force Quit. And if that doesn't work, you have another option where I can actually go down to the one that says Finder and say relaunch the Finder, which is like a partial restart of the computer. It's not a full restart. The screen will kind of go flash for a second, then come back on. But that's another thing you do without a complete restart of the computer. Yep.
So what was the three symbols? I got the command and the escape, but I'm not sure what the other one is.
Yeah, let me see if I can find. So notice when I go and click on we'd asked this question before, but if I click on the window and kind of let go, it'll stay there for you as long as you just click once. But if I kind of click again, it'll go away on me. Yep. So which symbol was it? The one
The very first one. I can see the command.
So that
and
one
the
is your
escape.
option key. Yep.
Oh, so okay.
Yep.
Option, command,
Yep.
and escape. Okay.
Yep, and I'm actually going to give you all the symbols for this. What I do is I print off the little chart that shows that to you. So where that is you have a program in here called Safari at the bottom. And let me, before I get too far, I'm going to make our little cursor bigger. We're going to do that for a second. But Apple menu, and I'm going to go to System Preferences because I'm going to make a system change. Click on System Preferences. And then to find the part where you can enlarge the pointer, we're going to go under Accessibility Settings, the bottom of our screen, bottom right of the window we're in there. So we're going to Accessibility and click. And then I'm going to look on this left column for display options, so options for my display. And what accessibility is that's for if you have anyone with a sight impairment or anything like that, they can go in and change how the computer displays, change how the cursor interacts. They can do voiceover, a lot of nice things in there if you have anyone with an accessibility challenge. So I'm going to just...
Are you going to provide a little cheat sheet?
So I'm going to show you where the little thing is for the support page that gives you all that information for that. Yep. So I'm going to go to cursor here, and I'm going to pull the cursor to the right, and notice what's happening to my cursor. See how my cursor is actually getting bigger? And it'll stay that way. So if I'm doing a presentation and I want it a little bigger so people can see it on the screen, that's a good thing to do. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and then our cursor will stay larger for us there.
Drag that like you just did.
Yep, so I kind of, yep, so depending on what you have, if you have a trackpad, my suggestion with a trackpad is I like to click with my thumb and hold with my thumb and pull with my index finger. So I'm kind of pressing with the thumb and pulling with the index finger. The other method you can use that I've seen works is someone will hold the left edge of the trackpad using the left hand to press, and then the right hand to just kind of flick along to get it to move along. That method works well. I like the thumb click and swipe method for what I've gotten used to. Now if it's a mouse, you're just clicking and holding just like a mouse on that. And for any of you, if you don't really like using the trackpad, you can still get a wireless mouse for this. We sell them, they'll work, and it'll let you use both if you need to. Yep. Okay. So where I'm going to go next is I'm going to show you some of your support options and help options. So if you have questions from home or things like that. If you notice on the top right of our menu bar here, you have a help menu. And you'll notice this in every program you go in, you'll see a help menu in the top right. And if I click on the help menu, I can go to Mac OS Help. And that's the Mac operating system help. And if I click on it, it will launch a little widget or window for me, which gives me my user guide. And to move this window up, if I want to resize it, see this little kind of gray area in the top? I can actually click down and hold and move that up to a corner if I want. And then I can resize the window by going to the opposite corner. You'll get a double arrow, click and pull diagonally, and I can resize my window if I need to for that. Now I will say something that I like to recommend is going to the support.apple.com website on a phone or an iPad or another device so that you can have the manual up on that screen so you don't have to see it on this screen while you're working or trying to practice what you're doing with that.
What was that website?
It's support.apple.com. And it has a little search option. We're going to go to that page next so I can show you where you can find that search option for all the command keys that you can print off behind the computer. And we have a table of contents, which I can click, and then it will show you all the different things you might want to do in your computer. If I go to Basics, what's the menu bar, or the ribbon? I think they need to print ribbon in here. I think I'm going to write Apple, but you need to add that. It is a good way to describe it, though. It's kind of like a little ribbon. That
And then you'll get some residuals.
I'm all big for analogies, so anything I can use to make it easier to explain, I like.
She's from Sandusky.
I think they got one of the best roller coaster parks in the world. I'm not going to say anything bad about Sandusky.
That's all. That's all them fish.
Yeah, except for when the lake turns green, then it's not so great. But.
Wow.
Yeah, I made a joke. We had this, I think it was St. Patrick's Day, and I said, someone's like, "Oh yeah, Chicago dyes the river green." I said, "We don't have to." Or what was the other one? Like they're like, "Oh, the logo or the slogan for Toledo is you will do better in Toledo." I said, "Well, I was like, I said, well, it could be worse, right?" It's a good place to be from. You go somewhere, you always end up back here. It seems like at some point. But yeah, this is our menu where you go down the side, and you'll have everything from like Spotlight search, how to use Siri, like what your things you can do on the desktop. So if I click on desktop, it'll show me kind of what the desktop is. And when I refer to desktop, that's basically our picture in the background. If you think about that like as a physical top of a desk, that's where you can leave documents and things like that if you want to. And then your dock is this bottom little quick menu you have here where you can kind of put some of your programs, but not all of your programs are necessarily there. That's like your frequently used programs that you can put down there. Any questions on where to find the user guide? That you can do that through the help menu as long as there's internet connected. It'll let you search that help guide. Okay. And the next page I'm going to go to is I'm going to take you down to Safari at the bottom. It looks like a little compass, similar to what you'll have in the phone if you have an iPhone or iPad.
Excuse me, Kurt.
Yep, mhm.
Before you go any
Yep.
further, can you explain the features for the red, orange, and green dots up there?
Sure. Yep. So when you get your window open, again, we have this little kind of gray area where I can kind of grab that like a handle. I like to think of this as like the spine of a book where you can kind of hold the book by the spine, but that's what I do when I think about moving the window. I kind of click and drag up on that top area so I can move the window around. If you notice, I can just hold my thumb down and it'll sit there for me, and if I just flick my finger, it's real easy to move just by keeping pressure with my thumb, and then when I let go, it drops it where I'm letting go. The green, the yellow, and the red, if we remember, we had maximize in the Windows computer. If I click on green, it maximizes or fills my screen.
Okay, see
Yep.
where that's gone up there?
Yep, yep.
That's what I'm talking about.
That was the question?
Yes,
Okay, okay, now it makes sense.
Uh-huh.
Now I know where you're going with this. Okay. So believe it or not, if I swipe all the way up, it will come back for me. Just pretend it's still there. It kind of hides it so you can fill the whole screen, but it is still there. Just go all the way off the screen. And then if you want to have it come back and stay back,
Yes.
you'll want to click the green button again. Then it'll stay for you. Yep. So if it's in maximize mode, it's not going to be visible unless you go up to it.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And then we have minimize, which ours shoots it down into the corner into a little window right there. And all I have to do is go right back to that window and click, and it brings it right back like the way I had it.
So it keeps your most recent program in that corner.
Well, it's whatever window you could have
Whatever you
open
got
or
open.
whatever file you had open, yep, and it puts it in the corner for you. And then obviously we have a little red X here. It's something that's a little different than Windows. Now, some of our programs, if you click the red X, it might quit the whole program, like Photos it'll do that. But other programs, watch what happens. Now, notice at the top, my menu bar has changed to where it says the word Safari. And I'm actually going to click on the picture in the background. Now, I'm clicking on Finder. Watch what happens in the top left corner when I click on Finder. It switches the whole program name to Finder, and it switches the menu that goes with that. So even though I see the window for Safari, I'm actually in the Finder because I've clicked on the Finder. And I like to describe this as like literally a stack of papers on a desk. So whatever I click on top jumps to the top of the stack, and now I'm in that program because this window is associated with Safari. I'm now in Safari. And if you click on Safari, you'll have a separate menu for Safari. So this will be separate from our Apple menu. But you notice the Apple menu is still there so that you have access to that at all times on that. But then anything program related will be in this new menu we have. And with that being said, if I go and open up another program, like let's say I go down to the little stamp, which is Mail if you have it configured, it then opens that on top of our other window. And then I can move the windows around if I need to, like so. And I can toggle between two windows if I want. I click on the back window, it jumps it to the top, and then I'm back in Safari. What's really cool, depending on the model of computer you have, if it's a recent model, what you can do is if you click and you hold down on the green button, I can then drag left or right. And as long as it's two programs that are available for it,
I've been looking for
you
that
can
one.
do split screen now.
Good.
Split screen.
I have a question. What if you're in one program in, like, say, Excel, and you have 3 spreadsheets,
Yep.
3 different files? How do you go from one to the next?
So it'll be when you open 3 different spreadsheets within that, you should have 3 different windows that are stacked on top of each other. And it's a
Yeah.
matter of clicking between windows to jump between the windows on that. Now that program's a little different than our program. Ours, you have the option to do what's called tab browsing, where you can have a different sheet in each tab. But usually it'll be window, window, window for each one you open.
I got an Apple.
Yeah.
And you can't,
So you
can
can
you split
split that.
screen? It's not a split screen.
So split screen's only
Yeah.
compatible with certain Apple branded programs. Now, I don't know if they're gonna add it to other ones, but the way to check is try to do split screen and see if it lets you drag it to a side, and if it doesn't, you'll know that Windows, it'll say not compatible, not
Okay.
available, yeah. But right now, split screen currently works with, Numbers, which is our version of Excel, Pages, Keynote, you can do that with all those, and then, Mail, and then our Safari program, yep. And then you do have a little divider, then you can move left or right if you need to make the split a little bigger to either side. And what's really cool is when I click on if I click on the Safari side, it then becomes Safari. But then if I click on the Mail side, now I'm in Mail. So it switches over to whatever side you click on and start working in, it becomes that, you get that menu for that.
Can you show me how you got to the split screen?
Yep, I'll do it again, yep. So to get out of split screen, same thing as before, we're gonna click back on the little green button, and it takes it back out of split screen for you. Now, if I go to the other program I had in split screen, I'm gonna go down to Safari again, it automatically jumps it back into full screen again, it fills that screen again. So if I wanna do split screen, I'm just gonna set this back again to regular size. First, you want to have two programs open that are compatible with split screen. So I have two different windows. I have the mail window and I have the Safari window. That's the first part. And then to do the actual split screen, instead of me just doing a single click on the green button, I'm going to click and hold on the green button, and then you'll see the screen go light blue, and I decide which side I want to drag it to. If I want this to be on the other side, I can drag it to the right, let go, and then I simply go over to the other window that's compatible and see how it's in blue. I will then click on it, and it fills the other side for me to do split screen. And you can try that if you want.
And how did you drag, one side larger? Do you have to click on that little gray area in the middle?
So
Make
if you
one
want,
side
yeah, if you want to
bigger?
change it, there's this little divider, and there is a little bar in the middle that gives me a double arrow. And as long as I see the double arrow, I can pull right or pull left to change the percentage there.
Oh, okay.
But that is split screen.
I'm gonna be teaching you.
That's a really nice one. I've used that before if I'm typing something, I want an email, or like it could be an email, or it could be a web page for reference. That way I can type and then see what's on that other page, especially if you're transcribing from one document to another or things like that.
So why,
If you can't copy.
I'm getting like, when I'm splitting the screen, my second one is small.
Yeah, go ahead and click in the middle on it. So click once in the middle, and then it will fill the screen. So what it's doing is it's showing you a little dialog box.
Okay.
If it's not compatible program, it'll say not compatible. But
Okay.
if it shows blue and then shows the actual picture of the program, clicking on it should enlarge it and then fill
Okay,
the screen for you.
because I wasn't able to get the arrow in between because
Yep, yep.
it wasn't the same size.
Yep, first you set your windows, then once it's set, you can divide the middle part. Yep.
Okay.
And then remember to get back out, exact same thing you did to get there. You just click the green button on one of the windows and it takes you back out.
You know, you can do all that stuff with that little green button.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot going on with that green.
And then if I wanted to quit a program, we were talking about before about some programs I can hit the X. Watch what happens if I hit the X in Mail right now. Even though I think I'm quitting the program, which would quit the program on a Windows computer, Mail is still running even though the window is gone. So the correct way if you want to shut the whole program down is you go to the actual name of the program, Mail, and go down to quit Mail, or if you do the shortcut key, Command Q, and it shows you the different shortcuts, and you can learn them as you go through them. But I'm going to show you where you can find the whole list for that. So I'm gonna Command Q, quits the whole program. So if I want to look for that shortcut list, I'm actually going to go up to the top of Safari and go into our little search box here. Just like you'd see in other browsers, right now I'm on apple.com. I'm going to go ahead and click once to highlight all of it, and then I can type in support.apple.com. And I don't need the wwws or anything like that. As long as I have the ending part of the website correct, it'll know where to go for you. And this does use Google search by default, so if you just type in a word, it'll also search it via Google for you. And that takes us to our support page. And this is a really good reference to have. It shows you support for all of our different programs. You can click whatever, products. You can click whatever product you have, and it will have a manual for that product as well, and different tips and things like that about the product you're trying to get information on. And then they also have different apps that we sell, and then we also have the App Store, and you can get information on each program you might have too that's Apple related. And right now, actually, you might be asking how I'm scrolling up or down right now. It's a light two-finger drag up or down without pressing. It's just very lightly on the trackpad. And if you have one of the smart mouse or mice, you'll actually flick up or down with your finger down the spine of the mouse, and it should pick that up for you.
That was really different because you
Because you don't see a little
Yeah.
wheel, it's just a little.
Yeah.
you have to go, what is it?
Yeah.
Opposite direction of what we're used to.
You can
with,
reverse that. That,
can?
yep, yeah, that was something that drove me crazy when I first came out. I said,
Yes,
wait a
it's
minute,
been
why is it?
driving us
Yep.
crazy.
So I'm going to show you real quick. You go to Apple menu,
I'm used to it now.
Yeah.
System Preferences, and then you'll have an option for mouse and trackpad. So whichever device you want to set the direction differently or change that. I have a trackpad, so I'm going to do trackpad.
Wow.
And then we're going to go to where it says scroll and zoom, and I'm clicking on scroll and zoom. And then I have my scroll direction, which they refer to as natural, I call unnatural, because it seems backwards, but that's where you can change it, yep. It'll go in reverse if you change that. And if you hover, yep. If you hover over it, you can see exactly how it's doing it. So it shows you a little video of how to do the gesture, what you're gonna do. Yep. And especially if you are new to Mac, if you go over to the one that says more gestures, I recommend probably unchecking these until you get used to them, so that way you're not randomly throwing things off the screen. You're like, what did it just do? If you disable it, it won't do it that way. Yep. So you can uncheck these, and then you can always come back every so often and see if it's one that's useful to you. Like one of my favorites that I actually do use a lot is if I want to clear my whole screen, you just kind of do this. So I'm going to do it on my,
See, no.
and then I can pinch back together, and it brings it back. So if I need to see my desktop really quickly, that's called expose it. It just does the whole screen. But it'll show you all those different gestures in the trackpad of how to do that. Now the one it's showing right now is the one where you kind of swipe up, and then it just kind of puts the windows out where you can see all the windows you have open. I can pull back. And that's one of the reasons I like the trackpad. The mouse will be a lot simpler. So if you do want something simple, definitely go the route of the mouse, but the trackpad, as you get using it, you might like it a lot. I was one of those people when the trackpad came out, I didn't really like it at first because I did graphic design and I used to use the mouse and I was used to it. To this day, I still like drawing better with the mouse because it feels a little more natural to me. But as far as editing photos, I really like this because of all the different things you can do. You can zoom in, zoom out, twist the photo. It's almost like laying a phone screen or an iPad down that you're using that. That's the easy way to think about it. Yeah, it does take a little practice. And then you do have things like your tracking speed. If you don't want it to go really fast, you can control that with the click speed. Something else that you might consider disabling is this thing where it says force click and haptic feedback. And the reason I bring that up, have you ever had where you're clicking on something, you get a little thing that defines it for you or pops up a little pop-up window instead of actually clicking like you want it to? What that's doing is sensing how much pressure you're using. And if you put different amounts of pressure, it gives you different reactions, like a different window. So if you don't like that whole pressure sensitivity thing, you can just disable this and then just a click means a click. It won't do anything else. And I work here, and I work here, that used to drive me crazy because I just want to click it and it gives me a definition of it. I said, I don't care what the word means, I just want to click it. So, yeah, so that's not one of my favorite features I have in there, but some people really like it where you can do that for certain things. I will say though, if I'm going through like a document, I have gone back and turned this on just so I can quickly look words up as I'm doing that. But
Why don't I have all of that?
So if you don't see this,
Yes.
it means you might not have a haptic feedback
Okay.
trackpad. Some of the newer trackpads had that feature built in, some of them don't, yep.
Okay.
So you're in the case where you don't even have to worry about it. Ignorance is bliss on that one. So, yep. But for those of you that have that extra feature, it's right there.
No, he said I
Yep.
do it automatically.
Yep. And then if you look at my window when we're in the system preferences, I have my little back arrow and a forward arrow. If I hit the back arrow, I don't have to close the whole window, and I can jump right back to where we were with our different options for the computer there. Yep. And while I'm in this window, someone had asked about displays earlier. So the actual way that I'm displaying this up to our TV right now is I'm using an adapter through our HDMI cable that lets me take the screen from here and mirror it up to our TV. And for those of you that do presentations, which I'm sure at a church you probably do some presentations, so what you can do is you can actually go, when you're plugged into a monitor, go to display settings. And right now I'm mirroring it, but what I could do is I could go to where it says arrangement. It actually shows you this TV that I'm hooked into, so that's showing me that TV. And then I have my behind window is my Mac. So this is anything on my Mac. But what I can do is I can go up to the back window and hit arrangement and change, is my computer mirroring or is it extending it? So right now you can't see what I'm seeing, but I can see other things on my screen that you can't see. But if I wanted you to see something, I could drag it into this window that you can see, but then I can do something totally different over here. It's especially useful if you're in a slideshow, because it'll let you see your presenter notes and everything like that, but all they'll see is the presentation.
I did, we did last week.
Did you
Yep.
hold that? That's nice.
But then I can simply go back to
I just
mirror
didn't know how to get to it.
and hit mirror again, and that makes it where now I can see it and you can see the same thing I'm seeing. So depending on what you're doing, that can be useful where if you want to have notes and things like that that are ready to go to control that.
Wow.
And what's really cool is for any of you that have iPhones or iPads, if you're using a Keynote presentation, you can set that device up as a remote to actually run off of that to see the presentation and control the screen with that.
Especially on iPads,
Okay, so since we're still on display,
Yeah,
because this is new to us, like, we was trying to put a picture
uh-huh,
up on our overhead,
okay.
and I could never seem to just put the picture up. You would still have the ribbon up on there.
So it's showing is it showing the top window of, or just, you're just seeing this part and that's it?
No, you're seeing that part and the picture. We just wanted to display the
Oh,
picture.
just show the
Sometimes
photo,
we
but
could
it's
show the
showing-
photo,
You wanna see the
but
toolbar.
sometimes it's showing that
The
ribbon.
toolbar
The
too, just for the
toolbar.
photo.
We call it
What
a
program were you
toolbar.
using
Yeah,
to
they-
play the photo?
Yeah.
No, we was just
Well,
using
no,
the
I
system.
think,
Oh, just the,
They
you just
called
open
it
the
a-
photo on the
That's
window?
the east,
Yes.
east
Gotcha.
coast.
You might want to use try displaying, if the photo's in a window, try doing that
green
green,
button,
full,
that's
yeah,
what I'm
that'll
thinking.
fill the whole screen, or it should.
Oh.
On that. So like if I go to, let me see if I can recreate that for you. So real quick, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna take a screenshot of what's on our screen. The way I'm doing that, I'm using the Command key, the Shift key, and the 4 key, and it gives me this little crosshair.
Command Shift.
Command Shift 4, and I get a crosshair where I can then go and
Yeah.
turn this into a picture by dragging it across.
Oh.
And now I'm just taking a snapshot of that right there. And
that's
there's
my
our
shot
photo.
you, didn't you? Fish?
And we're just gonna hit
How
done.
did
I'm
he
gonna
do the
see.
snapshot? I missed it.
He,
Yep, so I made a screenshot. Yep, I'll do it again here in a second.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and open this photo I took, and then I'm gonna go to the maximize button. I gotta make sure it's the actual window. This part's tricky because I see the
Right,
other, yes,
right,
it's this
right,
part right
right,
here.
right.
And see how it then shows just the photo? And then our menu's gone? So
Yes.
what I did is I hit the green button to do that, so it
Okay.
filled the whole screen.
On the last thing, and it would do that.
Well, yeah, so this part's showing, I should have probably not shown that part, because I actually took a picture of the actual button.
Yeah, okay, okay,
But if I
good.
didn't, you'd see that, yeah, so,
Right.
yeah.
Cool.
I get it.
That's the only confusing thing if you take a
One
screenshot.
more time with that one.
Yep, sure. So for that one, it's the Command key, Shift key, and then I hold the 4 key or the $sign. So Command, Shift, 4. And then I get a little crosshair, and until I click, the crosshair is just lining things up. So maybe I'm gonna try and see if I can actually get the window I want. So I'm gonna line the crosshair up there, and I'm gonna pull and drag, and whatever I pull this across, we'll take, yeah, it's like a little snippet, yep.
Oh, yeah, like a
Snipping
snippet.
And let go, and it snaps it, and my photo goes
Got
there,
it.
and then I'll get it on the desktop as a
Okay.
screenshot, yep.
command,
I got that part, but I keep missing
shift
what, how you
4.
making it.
Yeah, so you'll see a little, you'll see like a little crosshair. Try that again, try Command Shift 4.
Okay, so I've got
Oh, you
it.
got it perfectly?
Uh-huh.
And you're gonna go and click and drag across, and what happened is I think you did a single click, so it just snapped that little corner. Yep, try again, where you do Command, and let's
Okay, okay.
do, yeah. And Shift 4, and there's your crosshair, so first line it up where you want, and then I want you to pull diagonally, perfect, and then let go when you're ready to take the picture. So you're gonna get a picture of that little square right there.
Oh, I am.
Yep, just went in
Okay,
the
so
corner.
it's
Yep.
showing it right
Yep,
there.
so wherever you let go, it snaps the photo.
Automatically.
I didn't hear the snap, so that was my
Yep, but
problem.
yeah, you couldn't
Yeah,
divide
snap
that on
Don't
there.
say
Yep.
anything. Don't. Kurt.
I wrestled a guy from Scott. I went to Maumee, but yeah. Sadly, he beat me though, sorry.
Hey, them bulldogs.
He was pretty good though, he went to state, so. A lot bigger than me too.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take us back to we were talking about those shortcut keys again. So we're gonna go to Safari, which I'm in. And from this window, I can actually type in the search box, I can type in keyboard, and then it actually will find me keyboard shortcut list. And if I click on that, we'll see the Mac keyboard shortcuts. So these are basically support articles. And you can search all these different articles, and we'll click. And this will tell me each key, what it means and what the symbol is. And you can print this, and here are all of the different commands that you could do. And I have it on a corkboard behind my computer, because I will tell you, even though I work here, I don't have these all memorized. I have certain ones I know, like Command V to like, Command Z to undo and things like that, but Command P to print.
So are some of these similar to Word, Microsoft?
You'll find
Like, I
that,
see Command P.
yeah, you'll find that sometimes in Windows, they like to use the control key more versus ours, so that part's.
I mean,
yeah.
that's the difference
Yeah, you'll find
then.
some similar, you'll find
Okay.
some that are different, so it will be a little bit of a change for you, but that's why, and again, I recommend having it printed behind, so if there's certain ones you use a lot, you can get used to using those, yep.
Is that you? Or you didn't do it? That you? So you-
And then once you get good with them, like if I wanna quit the whole program, I could just do Command Q,
Oh,
without touching it, it quits the whole window and program for me. Yep, and all the windows associated.
But it's in control.
Yep.
Yeah, this is for Windows.
And I'm gonna go back to that real quick because I'm gonna show you how to bookmark it so you can find that again.
Yeah, I like that.
So once you get a page you wanna bookmark, and let's say I'm gonna bookmark support here, you have a little box with an arrow in the top right corner up here of the window. And that's just like the box with an arrow you'll see on your iPad or your phone. And it usually means share, but I like to just remember when I'm in this program, it'll get me to bookmark. So I hit the share button. And then it'll basically give me options of what do I want to do? Do I want to add it to a reading list, add it to a bookmark, email this page to someone, which is really cool. So if I did email this page, it actually takes it and puts it in as long as I have my little hawk with the stamp and everything set up, my email set up in there, it just takes it right in and pastes it right into the message for me. So that's one of the benefits of Apple is we have a whole bunch of programs in our ecosystem that all work together. So normally, if I was gonna attach this to someone, I'd have to go copy it, paste it into a new email or something like that. But all I'd have to do is go email this page, and it puts it right into the email for me. So just, there it is, and I can just send it. I don't have to go type anything, do anything, it links it right to them.
That is nice.
Yep. Same thing with photos. If I was in the Photos app and I wanted to send the photo to someone, normally I'd have to export the photo out, go to the email, attach the photo. All I have to do is use the share button, it puts it right into the for me. And here, watch, while we're speaking of time, just here, watch. Let me show you how fast it is. So let's say I want to send this group of photos to someone. I'm clicking there, shift clicking on the last one, there they all are.
Okay.
Go to my little share button, let's email it. And let's see, mail. There's my photos, send it. Yep. And I can also change the size right here if I want to make it smaller for everybody. And then it tells you how much size it saved you if you do that. So if you want to optimize it to send to someone, you'll know that you're optimized. But if I know someone needs to print it, I'm going to give them the actual size. Now they're getting the full size. One thing though, watch out for size in the email because they usually require it to be less than 25 megabytes to send it. And then you got to do it. Yeah, typically. Depends on the email server. Yep. But you usually can pay for more depending on the company, depending on the email you use. So.
That's neat. It is neat. I like that.
Yep.
Sending a photo, but it's nice.
And then in reverse, let's say I want one of these photos that someone sent me. I can click on the little drop-down arrow. Or actually, sorry, wait a minute. Let me do a hover in the middle. Actually, this is someone that I created. Let me just do a two-finger click. And I could say save as 2 photos or save as an attachment or import this photo if I wanted to. And it takes it right into my mail program if I wanted to do that. Which is kind of cool. So, but if you can send, but you can also save to it if someone sends you one to do that. Someone is really enjoying the Lion King.
Yes,
in the
they
background. It sounds like the first one though. It doesn't sound like the new one. Okay. Any questions so far? Or anything you need me to recap before we move on to anything else? Do we feel pretty good with the support page of where you can find support when you need it? Okay. And then again, you also have phone support, 1-800-MY-APPLE, you can call in. And you were a joint venture member, so I believe you can ask Rich this, but there is a number I think you have access to through joint venture you can use as well for part of that. Because this is a joint venture training. So, yep. He knows a little bit more about the stuff you'll get in the business side. I know more about the training side, so, yeah.
How do you connect the Apple TV to go off my computer?
So do you mean to like, if you're gonna share from your screen wirelessly to the Apple TV to show up on the TV screen? Yep, so once the Apple TV is set up, you can go to what's called AirPlay. It's this one that's to the right of the little Wi-Fi logo. If I click on that, right now I have an Apple TV, it's not hooked up to anything, but it's on. It actually can see that those different Apple TVs, and if I were to click on it, it would then say, do you want to mirror this screen with that Apple TV? And it basically will publish a code up on the screen that you just make sure matches, and then it shows it once you put that code in. Okay. So then it mirrors it wirelessly to that.
On the, where I have my pictures. That
Yep.
box was there.
And when I used to do presentations for photography, I would take an adapter and I would have the Apple TV, so if I ever had an issue connecting wirelessly or anything, or if they didn't have that kind of a setup, I would always just directly connect via the adapter. So that way you're seamless. If you have any problems, you just plug in the adapter, nobody knows, and you just keep going. So, yeah. And then while we're in Safari here, before I leave Safari, if you look at our window, let's say I want to go to another website, you do have tab browsing. So I can go up to the little plus in the corner here and click plus, and I can do a whole new page. Sorry for you Toledo fans in here. I went to BG. So. I wanted to go to UT, they didn't have my program. But you can go to another page, and then I can toggle right back over to my other page, and I can have multiple tabs there. If I
What
need
did you pick to do that?
I just went to the little plus button in the top right corner to create a new tab.
Okay.
And then maybe there's a scenario where I need to do a separate window completely. I can go to File, New Window, or Command N, and it makes a new window on top of those two tabs, which then I can make more tabs on this window if I want. So you could have, let's say you're working on something church related, you could have a whole window just for things that are church items, and then another one that's more personalized stuff. That way you can keep the two separate if you want to, like two separate sets of tabs, versus having one window with tabs that go on and on and on. Yep.
And normally you can only do 2 at a time on each,
You can do multiple.
on that same one. I
Yeah,
can have like
if
3
you
or
really
4.
like tabs, you can do as many as your system will allow. I will say, that's why I recommend probably doing separate windows, because I have a bad habit of getting tabs that go for miles, and then I forget what's in there.
I'll do
If
like
you
10 at a time.
Yeah, if you get too many, yeah,
The
yeah.
calendar, the email.
So why is that box up in the corner?
It's the little plus. The little plus will
Well,
do the tabs.
what is that box?
This one to the left, this one? Oh, yep, so this one is your tab overview. If I click it, it kind of makes it into a bigger box where I can see each little tab. So you can see all of the different tabs you have open. Like if I go to this top one that I'm in here first, let's do this one. I can see I now have 2 windows in my tab, or I could start a new tab there if I want to.
Is that wrong to do? Because that's what I do. is I
No,
do-
it's not wrong. What this does is, this is a quick way to, like, if you're like me where you're guilty of 50,000 tabs,
I am.
you can then see which tab you want to jump to if you're going to do that. They made this for me, I think, because then I can jump between the tabs.
Okay, because that's what Mass State.
Yeah. Go Falcons. Any questions in Safari before we leave Safari? Anything you'd like to know a little bit more about within Safari? Feel pretty good with using it, or at least the basics of Safari, like starting new windows. And I think what I'll show you real quick is a little bit of bookmark management, just so you understand that a little bit. Yep. Yeah,
I
sure.
want to ask about the calendar. Can we share calendars and see each other's calendars?
You can share calendars, yep. So what I'll do is I'll finish with this real quick and I'll go into calendars real quick for you, and we'll go from there. Yep. So as I start adding bookmarks, you're gonna say, well, where are my bookmarks? I can either go to bookmarks up top to access them, or I can click our little sidebar right here. So if I click on this little icon for sidebar, it will show me all of our bookmarks down the side, which I can click if I need to jump to them. And the one we didn't really get into, but we saw it when we were gonna make a bookmark, is we saw reading list, which is the little glasses right here. So the difference between a bookmark and reading list is a great way, let's say you're traveling and you need to read an article or something like that, and there's no internet on the plane. If you add something to reading list, it basically digitizes the page so you can read the article without Wi-Fi. So it's like saving it for later as a way to read it if you do reading list. A little different than a bookmark.
What did you do to get that?
So if I did, let's say I want to do reading list for, I'll go ahead and bring up that, let's say it's that one keyboard shortcuts.
That's it.
Keyboard shortcuts. And I need to memorize these, which I'm still not, but I'm going to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the box with an arrow, and we're going to say add to reading list. And it goes into our reading list. And then there is my article that I can read offline without internet. Just like it, now it works as long as it's nothing with linked pages. So if it's all on one page, you can read it. But if it links, you'll need internet to link. Yep.
Can we go that one more time?
Yep. So you just basically, when you find a page that you want to add to the reading list, you go to that share button again, and instead of saying add bookmark, we say add to reading list, and it will put it into the little glasses here. And a lot of people don't really use this, but it's kind of a neat little thing because you can have a bunch of articles that you can just read when you need to read them. Or if you're somewhere that doesn't have internet, you can go through and read those articles.
I didn't know what it was.
A lot of people did. I actually had a lot of people adding them in there thinking those were bookmarks. And I was like, well, that's not exactly a bookmark. It's kind of a thing that shows you part of the page. But yeah.
That's good for something that you just reading.
Yep, yeah, if you just want to read an article or have something in there.
That'd be a good place to keep the shortcuts.
You'd always have it.
Yep, you could print, or you can also keep a link on the desktop if you want for the shortcuts page. Yeah. And what's also really cool, let's say I want to digitize this to keep as a document. What I can do is if I go to File and act like I'm going to print it, and actually you don't even have to do that anymore, but you can hit Export as a PDF, or I can do it from the print option too. So let's say I start to print it, and then I realize, wait a minute, I could make a PDF. And a PDF is a portable document format, which basically means that I am digitizing this. So I'm going to just say, we'll say save as PDF instead of printing. So, and it actually, and now I'm saving paper. Instead of me printing something, I'm making a digital version of that document. And I'm just going to, and now when I go to save, you want to make sure that you choose where you're saving it. So right now it's asking me what I'm saving. I'm going to let it say Mac Keyboard Shortcuts. But what's very important is I want to say, where do I want to save this? In this case, so I can find it, I'm just going to put it on my desktop. Go to desktop. And now it knows that it should put it on that desktop for me. You could name it if you change the title. You can make an author if you want to, if you want to make sure someone know that you created the file. Security options is mainly if you want to make it where it's locked or something like that, where only certain people could open the PDF. But in this case, I'm going to keep this one public. So we're going to hit save. And now it's just, it acts like it's printing, but instead of printing, it's making a digital version of this for me. So I'm going to hit hide. And then if you go to my main screen, you're going to now see my PDF that I made, which I can open offline, and it's just like a document. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go to calendar, and then I'll kind of work through iWork, which is pages, numbers, so you at least have an idea of what those look like. So we're going to go to calendar. And what's really cool is if you have your calendar or your iCloud account signed into multiple devices like your phone, your iPad, your Mac, you can have the calendar share across those. Meaning if I enter a calendar here, it just shows up in my phone. And what I will say, if you ever need to, do I need to go up on the volume or am I okay? A little more?
A little bit.
Testing, 1, 2, a little better? Let's see if I can go as high as I can go here. Give me 1 second, I can get them to lower this part.
Right. Okay, why wouldn't they automatically go up and see the next one? Well, they still would go. Yeah, but they still have to turn
There we go, okay. Move that up a little bit. Okay. Okay, we'll go with that. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So with my calendar window, I'm going to resize it a little bigger here for you. And I will say, if you need to do any major edits to a calendar, you're actually better off doing it on the Mac because you can copy and paste events, and then they'll just all show up in your mobile devices. Because the mobile device, you can kind of do that, but it takes a lot longer as if you're doing a bunch of them together. So if I go to calendars, top left corner, this button is actually pretty important because if I click on it, I can actually make it look like all my calendars are gone. If I start unchecking all these things, watch what happens on the right side of my screen. And then I've had people come in and they say, my calendars are all gone, they got deleted. They're just hidden. Yeah. And there's a reason for this. The reason you do this, let's say I'm on vacation. I don't know if I want to see my work schedule on Monday, so this way I'm only seeing and this doesn't look like a great vacation. They got doctor's appointments. Adam's got a piano lesson. Yeah, that's the wrong kind of vacation for me. But here, let's try recreation. See if there's anything good in there. That's training. Well, it's a little better, but it's still not great. She's going on lunches or something. Boxing. This person does boxing and yoga. That's impressive. So, yeah. but you can basically show and hide all the different calendars. And then let's say I wanted to hide my recreation schedule. Maybe I've got someone that I'm going to go, oh, sorry, bowling. I misread that. A little different than boxing. But if I want to share this with someone, I get this little radio wave. It kind of looks like the Wi-Fi logo. If I click on that little radio wave or Wi-Fi logo, it'll say, okay, wait a minute. Who do I want to share my recreation schedule with? Could be a church calendar or anything like that. And I just go and I click on share with, and I type in the email address of who I want to get that. And they're going to get an inbox that shows up, or it'll show up in their email that says, do you want to join this calendar? And if they join it, they can access it, you can access it. Just keep in mind, if you start using this, make sure that whoever you invite understands that if they delete something, guess what happens to your calendar? And I tell you a true story on this. I thought I was being very smart. We had this, there was a wedding out in Lake Tahoe that my cousin was going to have, and I was trying to arrange all the travel arrangements for my family and everything, because, they're not all the most techie, I would say. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to put this in a shared calendar and everybody can see it. And I forgot about the time zone change. And so my aunt saw it, and she goes, wait a minute, the times are wrong. And she starts deleting them. And then we get there, and I said, oh, don't worry, everybody, we got it all set up, and we pull it up, and there's nothing there. And she just didn't understand that the time change automatically will change based on your location. But she saw, oh, these are all wrong. They're 3 hours difference. So yeah, just be careful if you use this. Make sure they understand not to change it without you knowing, or to have better communication. Yeah.
So is there a way to invite them to just view only and not edit?
It doesn't really. I haven't seen an edit option with this. It basically just invites them in, and they can make a change or create a calendar or remove the calendar.
You can do it where you don't invite them to the calendar, but you can invite them to the event.
Yeah, you can do that. So that's a one-off. Yeah. Yeah. So if you wanna do an RSVP, then what they can do is basically they can tell you they're coming to the event or seeing the event. You can do that, but that's a little different than shared calendar, where that'll be event by event.
Shared calendar
Yeah.
is what
Yeah. The nice thing with this is it just automatically shares it to everyone. The one with the RSVP, you have to do it on each event you make. Yep. But that is a workaround if you do want to do that. But if you're doing something where it's collaborative, make sure they understand that if they make a change. Now, it will tell you if someone made a change. It'll literally pop up and say, so-and-so deleted this, which that doesn't help anything, because you know who did it if they did. But, so don't delete it unless you want to get everybody upset.
So unlike Windows, when they share calendars or through Gmail and stuff, you can restrict what they do with that calendar. Mac doesn't have a
This one's more consumer level calendar, the way it's said. It's more just meant to keep making you can share it and things like that. Now, you can do something where I could make it public, which means if I do a public calendar, it allows people to subscribe but only read it. But the problem is if you do public, it is available to other people, but they can't really change it if you do that route. So what you want to do is determine, are they someone you want to be able to make changes, or someone that you just want to read it. But keep in mind, if it's public, it is viewable to whoever is invited to that public group. So yeah.
But, okay,
Yeah.
so using a
That
public
is an
calendar,
option you could do.
You still send it to the person.
Yeah, it's going to do that, and then it's going to but it makes a link. So the problem with this is when you make it public, if this link gets shared to anyone, whoever gets shared to gets it. So if someone accidentally leaves a link that someone finds that's not supposed to be sharing it, they can then get into your calendar. So that's very important if you do public. Make sure that link doesn't get shared to anyone you don't want to access that calendar.
Even
So
though they can't make changes.
they can't change it, but they can view it. Yeah. So if it's something where it's maybe only specific to the group in the room, they don't want them to see the calendar necessarily. That's where that's for. So yeah. Yeah. But that's how but I can easily hit the share button and email this to people to do that. If I just want them to view. So what you could do is think of a scenario of maybe you're doing a church event. You could have people that can edit it for the event, but then you share it to the people that once you're ready to publish it, when people are coming to the event or want to know when that is, then you share it at that point. But then they can view it. And then whoever has the access to edit it can make changes, but then those would be the only people that could do that. But just know that once you share an event out, you can't control what the people do with that link if they send it out to someone else, or so you just want to be careful about who you share that to if you want it to be public, truly public. Yeah. So.
But then could you pull up the Google Calendar then?
Um,
Since Google is the drive for the system.
Sure. So with this, right now this is iCloud calendars, which means it shares within iCloud.
Right.
If you use Google, you're going to have a whole separate heading that says Google. meaning that calendar would only go to people that have access to that Google account. Now, if I do it in iCloud, for my purposes, it shares it amongst all my devices that are signed in, which is nice for that. So if it's something where you want to maintain your calendar for that, you're better off making it within iCloud. But if it is something where you do need to make like a Google Calendar that people have access to, you could have it separate, where then you can make calendars into that, and then it shows up in Google. Yeah, which might give you different controls from what ours will give you, if you want to. Yeah. And then if I was going to make a new calendar event, I can go to File and I can do New Calendar or Event, or New Calendar Subscription, which is like a thing where people can sign into a calendar. But New Calendar Event would just be an event on this side. New Calendar would actually be a new heading here that you can make different like it could be work, it could be church related, you can make a church calendar. I used to do, when I used to do photojournalism, I had one that was for school, I had one for my photojournalist assignments, so I could keep them all separate. And that's also nice because I can actually print this calendar. So let's say I want to make a PDF. This is another thing you can actually do, is I can go to print, and then when I go to do this, I can choose what will show up in the actual PDF of this. So if I want to do something where it truly is read-only and you just want to send it out, they can see all the different events, this is another method you could use. You basically just print off to a digital format of everything they would see, but they can't really change it, but they can view it on that. Yeah. And then it will kind of display like so. So you get it, if you need to make like a actual either printed or one that's digital, you can do that with that as well.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on calendar before we can move on? And something that's really cool in calendar is, see how it says birthdays? If you have any contacts listed in the contacts and you put in their actual birthday, it'll tell you their actual date of birth and everything. It'll say like how old they are that day, which is kind of cool. It gives you a pop-up. So if you have something where you're doing a thing of like whose birthday is it that month, you can do that if you want to. Yeah. Gives you a little present, and then puts in like if you have their age in there, it'll put their actual age in for you. It's really useful if you have lots of nieces, nephews, and you can't keep all the ages straight. I like that it tells me how old they are. So.
Yeah.
I only have 2, so no excuse, but so I should know. No. 7 and 6. Soon 1 to be 8. So. And then U.S. holidays, that'll show all the holidays that are major holidays. It'll publish that automatically for you. So, yeah. And then if I want to make a calendar event, I can go into a couple different views. I can view the day, where it shows me the actual daily timeline, and I can do that scroll up or down to see the whole hour by hour, and here's where we are right there. Or I can go to week, so there's my whole week view laid out of what's happening. And I can scroll left or right, so if I do a side scroll left or right, it actually switches between the different weeks. Monthly view, then we have yearly view. And let's say I want to do my monthly view, and let's say I want to put in an event on the 16th, I can just double click. There's my new event. And we'll just say our favorite thing, vacation. And location anywhere, I don't know, down here, no. But if I did give it a location, let's say, I'm actually doing this in a week, let's say Yellowstone National Park. And then we'll put a little map point for me, tells me the weather and everything like that. And then I can go in, choose what calendar is it. We're gonna call it recreation. And this is nice, if you ever accidentally have a bunch of calendars that are labeled wrong, you can go back and select them and change them to the correct calendar if you need to. You don't have to delete it and recreate it, just switch the calendar. And then if I go through, I'll choose my starting point, ending point. If it's an all-day event, it will block out the whole day for you. And then if I go to give it a starting point, you can also have it show the actual time zone if you want. So that way it'll show whatever time zone you're in. If it's somewhere in a different location, it'll actually bring the time zone in for you. And that's under preferences to have it show different time zones for you. If it's a repeating event, I can have it where it shows every week, every day. So if it's something you do on a yearly event, you can have that just repeat every year for you, and you just make changes each year as you need to. Travel time is kind of cool. It will use, especially if this is going to a phone, it will use the phone's GPS to actually figure out how much time you need to get there. and then it'll say, here's when you need to leave based on the current traffic. Which is very useful in Toledo with all of our nice barrels we have everywhere. You'd think we'd at least with the whole beautifying thing put little plants in each barrel or something. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. And then what we were talking about earlier is you can add invitees to this. So if I invite anybody via email, they'll get a little RSVP that'll say, are you coming to this event, yes or no? And you can have it alert you where you'll get a little inbox saying, yes, they're coming, or no, they're not. You have a spot to add notes. This is probably one of my favorite things, especially with networking. So when I used to do photojournalism, I can't tell you how many times I'd be at an event. It could be a dog show, a car show, whatever. I'd run into someone, we'd start talking about it, and it's a yearly event where I'd come back the next year. And I'd walk back up to them and I'd say, hey, so-and-so, remember when we talked about this? And they're looking like, how do you know all that stuff? Guess what I did? I went and I made an event that says I'm coming back next year, and I wrote who I talked to in the notes and everything like that and what we talked about. And it's way better than walking in and going, hey, do you remember? And they're like, we don't really know anything, but if you know something about them, it works a lot better opened a lot of doors for me photography-wise of getting into places that I probably couldn't get into because they'd be like, oh, I remember you now. Yeah, go ahead and come back this way, So really good for networking. You can put in notes. Keep in mind, if you use this method, anybody you share the calendar with can see those notes. So don't put anything in there you don't want visible to the other group. Then they're going to be on to me. They're going to be like, oh, he's writing all these notes down about who he talked to and what we did last year, and he doesn't remember any of it. So, yeah. But as I say, it makes me look a lot smarter than I was. Add URL. That's where you can put in, like, if it's an event, if it's a race, whatever it could be, you can put in an actual website link. It could be a link to your church if it's a church event, where then whoever gets it can then find that information and link to that. I'm just going to we'll just put in apple.com just so we can have something in there. Oop, don't want to do that. Okay. And then if I want, I can also do an attachment. There could be a flyer you attach or something like that, so then they have access to that as well. The attachment feature is really nice. So like, let's say there's an event you have coming up or you need a document that they need, you can basically attach that and then they'll have access to that document.
Can you do that on the phone too, or just back?
Only on the Mac you can do the attachment, but that's what I mean. If you do it here, it should make it available on your phone though. Yeah, even though you can't add it in the phone directly. I don't believe that option is there. Yeah. Then if we go ahead and click off of it, it'll save that for us. So there's our little vacation time. We can see that in there. Anything you click, if I want to, let's say it's time to go there, I can click on the map if I'm in my phone, and it will load maps for me, and I can get my directions right to where that location is. So that way you don't have to worry about someone saying, I don't know how to find it. It's all right in there. But that is kind of a quick overview of what you can do with Calendar. And we're going to go ahead and work into our iWork software. So of the programs, Pages, Numbers, Keynote, which one would you say is the most used by that you most likely use the most? So we'll start with that. We'll kind of order them, so we'll start with the most important. Pages is probably the biggest one. And then what would you say is next? Keynote or Keynote and then Numbers? Okay, got it. So we'll go to Pages first. And Pages is like our version of Word. And it looks like a little pencil and paper. Now, if you don't have it at the bottom, if I need to add a program to our doc, I can go to the Finder by clicking anywhere on the desktop, go to the Go menu, and then we're going to go to where it says Applications to look at all of the programs in our computer. So we go to Go, Applications, and this is a list of all of the programs in your computer, even though you might not see them down here. So let's say I need to drag one of them down that's not at the bottom, like, well, we're just going to drag voice memos down, but if I need to bring that down to the bottom, I click and I hold and I pull it down to where I want to put it, and then now I have that program accessible to me down there. To get rid of them, you simply just hover over it and do either a right click or a 2-finger click, which you can change in that gesture section of trackpad or mouse, and then it gives me options, and I can say remove from the dock. That will get rid of it.
Can you put it in the recycle bin too? Or
You mean like trash it?
Yeah.
So if you have a program that you want to get rid of, that would be one way to do that. You just want to make sure that if that program has an uninstall file, you use that to remove it. Sometimes programs can leave things in the library when you just move them to trash without removing the whole part of the program. So just whatever that file program is, they should have instructions on removal, and you want to follow whatever the removal instructions are, if it's one that's not as simple as just dragging and dropping it to trash. Okay, so now we've got our pages, numbers, and keynote at the bottom here. Click on pages. And the first thing it'll do is it's asking if we have an update, which you can do if you need to. It's going to bring up this little window, and it will show me any documents I have already possibly made that are in the cloud. So what this lets you do, if you have an iCloud account, you can actually save your documents to the cloud where they're available on the computer, but then they're also in my phone and my iPad if it's signed into the same iCloud account. And I can work on one device and it saves it everywhere on that. So first thing, if I wanted to look in cloud, that's what I click. But if I want to look somewhere else, I can then go to different parts of the computer like iCloud Drive, which is also in the cloud as well. But this is pages for iCloud right there. So think of iCloud Drive as the big container that holds the little subsections like pages, numbers, keynote. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and do a new document in the bottom left corner. And then it will bring me the document template, choose a template. If I want a blank document, that would be the first one. But they have a lot of good pre-designed documents, like they have note-taking, where it just kind of gives you a little formatting for note-taking. They have different reports you can do. They've even added like little book layouts, and they've got like portrait books, landscape books. If you want to quickly make a book, you simply just plug and play the information in the photos in those spots, and then it fills it in for you. Or if you need to make a letter, you don't want to bring out a formatting book, they do all the formatting for you right there. You just fill it in. So let's say I want to do a letter. I'm just going to do classic letter real quick. All I have to do is click where I want to put the information and change the information. And I just type and it keeps all the formatting for you. And this is Latin or Greek text, and you just completely fill that information in. It just will keep all that formatting for you. But you can also make changes over on the little sidebar here. If I wanted to change, like, let's say I go and just put in my name. And let's say I want to change the formatting on that. I can go and I can highlight across it and still change my formatting, bold it, italicize it, underline it. So this is just kind of the template, and then you can go and customize it or add your spin to it if you want to.
Is this Apple's version of Word?
This is like Apple's version of Word. Yep. And speaking of that, let's say that someone sends you a Word document. This can read most Word documents. So you'd be able to open it and convert it to pages for you. But then let's say I want to send them something that I made in Pages because maybe they have Word. I can go to File, and I can say Export to Word, and actually convert this to a Word document for them.
It's not
Yep.
save as,
Yep.
it's export to.
Yep, so you just export and then convert it to Word, or it could be a PDF or anything like that. Or if they have an older version of, now if I do the export to Word, do that again, you have a choice of which version of Word is it? Is it a DocX, which is the newer one? If you want the most compatibility, you're probably better off setting to 97 to 2004. That way if they have an older version, they can open it. But it does give you the ability to set that. And what I will say is if you are going to kind of work cross-platform, where it might go to someone with a Windows computer and they're going to open it in Word, try to keep the fonts more vanilla or more generic, just because you don't want a font that they don't have where it changes it. So stick to things like Helvetica or things that are very universal between the two computers, unless you have that font loaded on your computer and their computer. Yep, like things like Times New Roman, things like that. Yep. And then what's really cool is kind of like in shared calendars, we can do what's called collaboration. So if I go to collaboration or collaborate, I can then, if mine's updated, I can then go and actually invite other people into it, where then I can see what they're doing and they can see what I'm doing, and we can work on the same document together. So it kind of tracks all the changes and then lets you see any changes they've made, so you can go and adjust that as well.
So what pops up there when you say collaborate?
Yeah, so
Like sending it to an email?
yeah, you're going to get a pop-up saying, who would you like to invite?
Okay.
The key for this to work is they do have to have Pages and a current version of Pages, and then if they do, it'll then show up where then they'll have that document. If they work on the document, it kind of color codes everything. so you can know kind of who someone made changes to it and things like that, or for versions.
And are
and
you
changes.
sending it through email or?
It's basically what it's doing is it's
Like
just
a
sending an
subscribe?
invitation,
Okay.
and then they get the physical document to work on that you're both gonna work on the same document. Yeah.
So as long as I have pages open and someone else has pages open,
So it's
we'll
gonna
see
kinda-
that it popped up?
It's basically taking the times you make changes and then making sure it's in sync at all times after that. So
They send it to your email.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's like an invite.
It doesn't have to be open.
Yeah, think of it like an
Oh.
invite.
Email,
Yeah.
I can make changes and you can see what I made.
Okay.
Yeah, think of
It'll
it-
be color coded.
Yeah, the email is more like an invite, and then
Okay.
once you're both on the same document, you'll see who's part of that document.
Okay.
And then it says that so and so made this change on this date, and then you, yeah, kind of like that. Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Can only the creators
Like a
say
Google Doc. Google
yeah.
Doc.
So you're making the document, and they're going to get that same invite to the document too. So you'll both have the document, but it's a linked document where anything you do, it saves it. Yeah.
Either person can say it.
Yeah, so it's going to go by whoever saved last will be the most, but it updates both documents. Does that make sense? How whoever saved
Oh,
last,
yeah.
each one's the same.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
We'll have to try that.
Yeah, like right now, I'm
Test it out.
just planning for my trip, and I did a shared numbers document. So if my sister or anybody buys something, they can log it in the document, and then when I go check my document again, it's going to be updated with their information in there. And then if I make a change, they're going to see it on theirs. Yep. Yep. The thing to keep in mind though is if you save things really quickly, like let's say you're both actually working similarly on time, there might be a little bit of a delay before you see the change. So just be careful about how closely together you're both working on the document on that. But anything you're doing, it's going to put it in its spot, but then it'll keep correcting it as it goes to make that change. Yeah.
So can you just do for me real quick before you close that, move the addresses information that you left?
Move,
Somebody do that. The address, Kirk and your address.
Changing this, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Gotcha. So that's going to be that's going to be your alignment formatting.
Okay.
So I would go and select it, and then I would just switch it to the other side.
How did you get to the alignment?
So it's under format.
Format,
Yep.
okay.
And you'll see different options where I can then move that
Gotcha.
around as needed.
Okay. Center.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep. So if you want to change it, you can. You can use this as just a guide and then change it as you need. But it saves you some time, so it kind of lays it out, and you can make some quick changes to it if you need to. And then let's say that you have a very specific template you've made. You can actually go in, and there should be an option that says Save as Template. Yep, right there. And if I do Save as Template,
Ooh, I like that too.
it will then, I can actually even add it to that first window you see that has the template right there, and anybody can click that to do that. Yeah. So you could make like a template that can be used over and over again if you need to. Or I could just do a regular save of just the template where it's just the thing that you bring up each time. You don't make it public, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then I just want to show you one of my favorite features in Pages here. And you can do this actually in Numbers and Keynote as well. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, do a new document. Have you ever had a scenario where someone sends you a photo and you want to get rid of the background on the photo? You just want to make it disappear, do a silo silhouette of it? What I can do, now this is just a placeholder photo. If I was going to put my own photo in there, I would just click here and add a photo, but I'm going to use this example because it's got a nice solid background. What I can do is I can click on the image, and then it gives me all these options to change the image. Like I can change kind of the way it looks, or it has a border, maybe a reflection to it. But what's really cool is I can go to image in the middle here. So they're for style, but I'm going to go to image. And you have a thing called Instant Alpha. So alpha just means doing a knockout of a background, basically, if you want it. So it's alpha channel. So if I click Instant Alpha, all I have to do is hover over the area I want to eliminate and start dragging.
Get out of here.
And I'm going to do, this one's a little tricky because I got to make sure not to get part of that. Then let go. Go to here and then do a little more. And I'm just going to quickly do this, but normally this would take you about 30 minutes or so, probably in
Yes, you are so
Photoshop.
right. I've
Yes.
done
And
that
I can hit
before.
done, and now I have no background.
Yes, I love it.
I can move that around and wherever I need to. Or I can do a text wrap where the text comes in. And,
Do but just like add on there, that would take a little bit more, but
so if you do have like a green screen, green wall, you can shoot things in front of that and use that as a quick way to do that as well. Or so it doesn't have to necessarily, with this, it doesn't have to be green, just to be a solid color. But then if you have a green screen where if you're doing video, you can actually use iMovie to do green screen effects in iMovie and remove the background. Put a whole different background. And that'd be really cool because let's say you were trying to do a presentation, but you want to show different locations that you can't go to necessarily when you're doing it. You could have like some background footage showing that location where you're talking in front of it with the green screen effect.
How do you get that in there?
So that's going to be with iMovie. It's a program where you basically shoot your footage of you standing in front of a green screen, and then you just buy either or have some stock footage that someone gets for you that you can put behind it. Like let's say you're doing an event where you're saying different events around the world or something. You can then put a different background behind you, while you're talking about it. Yeah.
What about just a picture?
You could do a solid photo. Yep, if you want to. Yep.
How would you do that?
So with that, that's going to be, you basically have to take a photo of the person in front of a green wall or green screen, and then you bring it into a program like iMovie, and they have an option that says green screen effect, where you just choose the background content. It could be a still image, or it could be the actual video to do that, to bring it in. Like, I'll see if I can quickly kind of give you an idea on that. So I go into iMovie, which is another free program we have. And then you would have, let's see if we have something that's got green screen on it. Yeah, so if you had like a background, I could basically layer two images. I don't know if I have a green screen in here, but I'll see if I can create the effect. So let's say I have an image behind it. So I've got an image that's kind of stacked above another image. Let's see if we can. This is blue. Let's try this one. Okay, so I'm just going to use this one. And what I can do is they have this little double box that's here. And I just choose the effect, green screen, blue screen. And if you see how I took the blue and knocked it out and put my underlying video, 2 videos?
Yeah.
And that's very quick and dirty, but that's just basically what you do is all you have to do is have something shot in front of the green, have your other video, and it plays it right in behind the other one. Or it could be a still
That's how you,
image.
like
Yep.
Photoshop?
Yep. Well, not really Photoshop. This is just doing a green screen effect, putting an
Just
image behind
blending
another
them
image.
together.
Yep. Yep. But you can kind of see how if whatever one is on top, it cuts the little background out and makes the other video show through. Which again is nice if you can't physically go to a location and you're trying to do an event for something, you want to build awareness or whatever, you can still have that playing behind you without you physically going there. Yeah. Or maybe if you do any, I don't know if you do any like video work with like different events or things, you could have like a certain background of your church or something like that that could be showing, or so it's not just a blank room. So yeah. But that is Pages, but that's a little bit of iMovie there. And we do have free classes if you ever want to come in and learn more about iMovie or anything like that. We do have different free available classes that are open to the public all year long. It's called Today at Apple. You can go to the Today at Apple. You can go to the Apple Store app under Sessions. There's an app called the Apple Store app you can get, and there's a little button that says Sessions that you can use to schedule all these different things from photography, sketching, to keep yourself have an outlet to learn more about that if you want to. Yeah. We also do a really cool one that you can check out called Small Screen Magic. And that's really good because in today's society, everybody is just bombarded with information, and you really need a way to cut through all that to get to someone to notice. And what jump cuts are, it's a creative way to use movie special effects to get someone to basically notice your video or like an intro to it. So you can do things like, let's say I want to magically make myself disappear, I could snap and I disappear or something like that. That's a technique you can use to basically have an attention getter to get people to notice your video. Those are real popular on YouTube and things like that. So, yeah. Yeah. But that's called Small Screen Magic. We're going to come in for it. And before we go, I just want to kind of jump into Keynote real quick. And what I want to show you is you're going to notice that each time I go to a program, I'm going to click Keynote real quick, that you're going to get the same kind of window you get when you go to Pages. So once you learn Pages, you've already started to learn Keynote, you didn't even know it. So I'm going to New Document, and tell me if this looks familiar. You seen that before? It's similar, just a different layout. And I go and I choose one. And then I'm going to have my formatting tools, just like in the other program. Except in Keynote, you're going to have Animate, and then Document, and then we have Collaborate. So a lot of those same menus are in each of the programs, whether it's Keynote, Numbers, Pages. And if you do need to learn more about it,
PowerPoint.
you have the Help menu, and you can go to Keynote Help, which is specific to Keynote.
Okay.
And you can bring that up on an iPad, a phone, by going to that support.apple.com site to access that same document.
So while we're in there, what about looking up templates that you can, like say if I want to find some more templates?
So you would have to search a template that is written for the program, like Pages, Keynote. People do make them, and they are out there. You just have to search one that is specific to Keynote, and then it would give you a way to save the template file.
They don't have one like Microsoft Office where you
It's not something where you can go in and say buy more templates. It's something where you have to kind of search for people that have made them, kind of like to use. Just make sure that they are.
Yeah. Do they come
it's-
with templates?
Yeah, so it's not. What'll happen is with ours, it's going to load the templates every time a new update comes out. You might see new ones. Like we have the new book ones that are in here. That's something that Apple will occasionally add more to, but it's not something where you're going to actively see a little template store or anything like that. You'd have to basically search for people that have created, like other designers that have made templates for Pages or Keynote. Just make sure if you use that method to make sure they're legitimate, things like that, and not someone who's just making a way to get into your device by creating
Yeah, so
something for
when you
that. So
open
make
it
sure it's
up,
something where it's
when you first open it
reputable.
up, that's where you can
places
choose
doing
the
it, yeah.
templates. You know,
If
like
it's
with
available,
Word.
okay, if it's available.
Uh-huh.
But he's saying you may have to search
But
because
some of what I'm saying is
So
that
if
some
it's
of them already
PowerPoint,
come
you
with
should be able to
pre-made.
open them as long as it's a format that
I think
Keynote
he's
can
saying you may
read. Just
have to
keep
go
in
out
mind if
there
you
and
made
search.
any kind
Okay,
of
they don't have
transitions or
them.
things that are specific to Windows, you might lose those.
Well,
Or they
I
might
think
convert them to something
if
similar of ours.
it's
Yeah.
been updated.
Change fonts.
But it does have an option. Okay, that's what
Oh, okay.
Because
Yep.
with Windows, it comes with
You know,
a
there's a
whole
lot of different
Yeah,
stuff.
that you can choose.
You can
And
choose.
like that's
Yeah,
what I was
yeah.
asking. This
Mhm. He
has
did, yeah. He said as it's going
Yeah.
along, they would add more.
Yeah, it'll give you suggested fonts and things like that, if you have a different font. Yeah. Yeah, like if you have a font that is not available, it's gonna try to find a suggested font that will tell you it's changed it. So that again, if you're gonna work between the platforms, you wanna work, if you can, start with fonts that you know are in both systems. Or if you are gonna go with the specialty font, make sure that specialty font has been installed in all the systems you're gonna switch to. Yeah. That way it doesn't change your work on you when you go to bring it into something else. Yep. Yep.
Now, where is it where you would pick your display, like how you want this formatted? You know, like the different, what's the word I'm calling?
templates.
Not necessarily. Yeah. Well, I
The
guess-
aspect ratio?
No,
like-
it's like the design.
Oh, you mean like the template? They change pages and things like that to the template?
No,
But-
not like.
You mean your
animation, just like
background?
The background. What
Your
my
background?
colors, like I want to pick my
He
colors.
wants,
Oh,
she wants
okay,
to
I think-
change her,
yeah, so-
change her background.
So first thing,
Change her background.
if you want to add like slides, if you click here, it will let me change like within the slide format itself, like of how it's oriented. Like if you want different like ways the photos are, but then if you want to do your style, that's going to be more of a thing for document, and then change. You can do change theme, but I can also go in and let's see where my style colors are.
Did you mean, Patty, like change the background on your desktop? Is that what you mean? You mean to change the background in
So
the,
I can go like
tablet, within
and
the
kind of change. I
PowerPoint?
could go to change fill. I could choose a solid color fill if I want, and actually change the background color if I want to.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
for.
So
it's
that's
just
under
background.
format,
It's under format.
background, and then image fills. And now if you're doing one that's kind of preset, so to speak, it's going to have its own fills and things, but you can do your own or start from scratch on one if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I'd rather do.
And then if you have text, you can change the text, but this can be a quick starting point for you, and then you can customize it the way you like it if you
Okay.
need to. Yep. But we are almost out of time here. Any closing question before we go? Yep.
Okay, eject. Like sometimes we're having problems because we don't know exactly how to eject. Like I saw something that said eject.
Oh yeah, like so you mean like a DVD or it could be a drive? Yep. Okay. So the question was eject, and we'll end on this one here. Top left, top right corner, I have like a little virtual hard drive, or it looks like a drive. I have a couple ways to eject this. The first method, I simply drag the drive to the trash, and notice how my trash changes into an eject logo, and I simply go right on top of the eject logo, and it will eject it. Yep. Or
Yeah, mine.
I can do a 2-finger click or right click on it, and say eject the drive. Yeah. And that's the correct way to remove a drive, so you don't get the little error saying this has been improperly removed from the device on. Yeah. Now, if you ever get that error, it doesn't mean that you've lost data. It just means that if you do that repeatedly, you could start to lose data or corrupt data on that. You just want to make sure you do it this way if you can do it this way.
So that usually shows up if there's a hard drive
Yeah,
connected.
if you have a hard drive and then you actually drag it like you're going to trash it, it will convert the trash can into an eject button.
On the monitor one, and you stick it, the drive in the back, that doesn't show up right there.
So
So we usually go to Finder.
are you saying you're not seeing it on the desktop? Okay, so there is a setting you can change to where it will show connected drives on the desktop. That's a preference. If your preference is not that way though, you can go to Finder. Yep. And then basically it will show you in the sidebar, you'll have a little icon to eject, you'll click on the right. That little icon right there. Yep.
You just right click.
Well, you don't. With this one, you don't even have to. You'll see that little symbol right there. You'll go to the right, and it'll highlight, and you'll click on that to eject. Yep. Yep.
So, which one of those icons is the numbers? Is numbers equivalent to
Yep.
Excel?
So numbers. Yep. That's going to be the little graph.
The graph?
And just like the other ones, if I click on it, it's going to give you a starting template you can do. Just like before, we'll pick our template. You can even do graphing. The one I really like is they have ones called shared expenses. And where is that one? Here it is, shared expenses. I can click on the template. And I simply just fill in who paid for what, and then it divides it all out evenly for you and says, so if you ever need to do a shared expenses or anything like that, you can do that, and it graphs it. Same tools, we've got our format, collaborate, very similar, just slightly different in what you're doing in the program. Help menu, top right. Yep. And if you ever come in for Mac Part 2, it's a session we offer during the day. We also have Mac Part 1, which is kind of I would say a little simpler than this one. It's more just how do the buttons all work. If you ever need that refresher, we have those available. And then Mac Part 2, we kind of run through a quick preview of all these. A really good session you can also use is called Studio Hours you can find in that app. Studio Hours is basically like, I like to call it study hall time, where we're just at the table and you could be working on a project, and if you have a problem, you can ask us and we can help you through it. And it's just their time for you to work for an hour. If you come in, it could be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and we're just at the table to answer questions if you get stuck on anything. So if you try to come in and do the green screen effect, you can come in and say, hey, I'm having trouble with green screen. We can try to affect it or help you with it as long as it's within iMovie. If it's any program outside of what we have, we don't have a lot of expertise in that, but if it's our software, we can help you with that. So,
So that's called Studio?
Studio Hours. Yep, and you can find that under the Apple Store app under Sessions, or the website is apple.com/today. So for Today at Apple. Yep. Yep, but it was great having you all today. Hopefully you got some great information. Yep. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. And maybe we'll see you again sometime. Yep.
Excuse me, baby.
Oh, excuse me.
Yep.